Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. Start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome into another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. Remember, if you guys use code TRIPLE when you make your first deposit, they will match you up to $100. So you deposit 100, you get 100. Deposit 50, you get 50. Again, on your first deposit, if you use code TRIPLE, get a bunch of fantasy goodness. You can do some Underdog fantasy best ball drafts. We have those on our YouTube channel every single week. You can enter some tournaments. It's a lot of good stuff over on Underdog. Check that out. Doc, little cheesecake Marty party, and our special guest joining the show tonight we'll get to in just a second. Doc, what is going on in the world of Doc these days?
Just drafted a better best ball team than you.
You have Giancarlo Stanton, so you do not have the better best.
Oh gosh, it was an auto pick. It happened by accident, and I swear I don't endorse Stanton this year.
If you have him on your team, I guess you endorse him. So no one's gonna know. So that's a problem. LC in the house tonight. LC's got his baseball hat. He seems fired up for the show. How's your basketball going these days?
My basketball's going well. I'm teaching those 14-year-olds a lesson over at the courts. In that I am not feeling like I'm going to throw up after I play with them. So that's a lesson in growing old gracefully. That's what I'm teaching them.
I like it. The old grizzly old veteran. Marty Party just closed a deal with Eric Bledsoe's brother. So that's exciting. Marty Party, I'm going to put your business out there, but you closed the deal. That's why we're putting it out there.
I don't know there's the name of the certain laws against what you just did, but that's okay. You know,
we're lawbreakers here. We're lawbreakers here. Okay.
And it's always funny. We don't know what you're going to bring out for your intro to us, so I'm always interested to see. They never cease to amaze me. So thank you, David.
Sometimes they definitely fall flat, but I appreciate the kind words there. And Kyle's stand is better than his boy Stephen Kwan. So there you go, Doc.
No, that's absolutely not. I'll take Stephen Kwan any day.
We'll see. We'll see. Of course, we have a special guest joining the show tonight, a man that has not actually been on the show since 2020, according to the research from Cheesecake here. We welcome in a man that brings tranquility to your life as he brings the calming streams. Starting pitcher streamers and all things fantasy baseball, he is a co-owner of Gaining the Edge Fantasy. You can check out their Patreon in his link on his Twitter page. He is a 2022 FSWA Baseball Writer of the Year finalist. Did you know that we have Michael Simeon on the show?
What's going on? I don't know if that intro was either really good or really bad. Just because of the stream reference you used there, but I'll take it.
Hey, man. You know, it's just fun having you back on the show. I didn't realize until we were talking before the show started how long it had been since we had all of us here. And I feel like it's a crime because you're one of my favorite guys, even though you won't golf with me. But please tell our audience, tell us what's been going on in your world, the streaming world, Gaining the Edge. Tell us everything.
Yeah, I mean, not much. I started a Patreon called Gaining the Edge with Mike Curlin. I don't know why I involved him, but Bubba on Twitter and George Montanez, and we basically all cover like all different aspects of fantasy, ones that we mainly focus on anyway ourselves. So it made a ton of sense, and we started Patreon. And if you want to join it, you could go on my Twitter, and I have it pinned on my feed.
Yeah,
Twitter feed, whatever you call it.
Every corner of the fantasy baseball world covered there. Bubba, I know, just hitting, and George does relief pitching, right? And you obviously do starting pitching streamers, and Curland also doing his lineups for spring training and his inning analysis. So again, everything is covered there. You guys got to check out their Patreon. As we welcome Albert to the show. Welcome in. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we we planned this out because Nick Pollock week 1, you week 2. We have to get the best pitching minds for our audience for our pitching episodes here. As we're a couple weeks away from the season, we're hitting into our starting pitcher preview part 2 here. So now we're a little bit more away from the studs. Now we're getting into some really intriguing players that we're expecting potentially to break out here. And Simeon, we got to go to you first. Who is the first player? And we left off for SP 45 last week. So we're kind of quote unquote go around SP 46 to 60 here. And just again, a reminder, we're using NFBC ADP over the last 2 weeks for those that want to check the ADP that we're using. So you can look at that. Simeon, give us the first pitcher that you like in this range.
I'm going to go with Drew Rassmussen. I just think he has a really good combination in terms of command and stuff. I think his cutter four seam has a lot of deception. They both play off each other really well. Going to get a ton of wins on that team, obviously, because they're always good. He's got the high velo fastball. I just think there's more strikeout potential there than what we've seen. So I think he's going to give you really good ratios across the board. And if he ups those strikeouts, then he could be really valuable. So I just think he's kind of being overlooked. And I think his stuff is just way too good to not have a high strikeout rate. So I think it's going to come into play eventually.
I'm not going to lie to you, Michael. I did not hear the player that you picked because I zoned out when you said his name, and then I was waiting for you to say it again. I didn't hear it.
I you know what's funny too is when I listen to podcasts, I can't stand that because so many times I'll like zone out and then I don't know who they're talking about and they never say the name again. So I should try and remember to do that.
I'm picking you up.
Drew Rassmussen, by the way.
Yes, Drew Rassmussen. Okay,
wait, you guys gave me crap for how I said Verlander last week. He said Rassmussen.
Rassmussen. I say both to switch it up.
Rassmussen sounds like he's like royalty, like a king. King Rassmussen.
Rassmussen to me sounds like a medicine. Like consult your doctor, Rassmussen.
Could be all these things.
It sounds like the sequel to Ratatouille.
All right, as we're losing audience members here for Rassmussen, let me ask you, Mike. So, do you like him the most out of kind of the back end of this Rays rotation? I see Jeffrey Springs is a popular name that's been talked about here, as well as there's a couple other arms there. Is he your favorite? That's not named Shane McClanahan. Obviously, Tyler Glasnow's hurt right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, him and Springs, I know are going back to back in like every draft right now. So, and I do like Springs almost just as much. But I think he edges out Springs a little bit because I think he has better stuff, even though Springs' strikeout rate did kind of go up towards the end of the season. But so I do like him more than Springs.
And a 2.84 ERA last year in 28 games started, only 125 strikeouts and 146 innings. But you think that strikeout stuff is going to go up this year, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's fair enough. I do like that Baseball Savant has started incorporating the sweeper as one of the pitches that they're counting on there. So it's interesting. You can kind of see when that stuff takes place here. Ray is in the comments, says Curtis Mead and Jordan Walker, these boys will be part of the MLB squad for opening day. You think so? I do think Jordan Walker is a lock at this point. Curtis Mead, the Rays' top prospect, I feel like he's definitely making a case for it. I don't know if I feel as strongly about it. Do you guys lean one way or the other on that?
I'm with you on both.
Walker, probably Mead. I don't know. Not yet.
I agree.
Fair enough. You agree. And Murph is with you. Simeone says Rass is definitely being overlooked, going way late in ESPN drafts. ESPN ADP is very wonky.
It's a wild west out there.
It is. It is very much. Justin says, talk to me about Kyle Gibson. Do you have some love for Kyle Gibson, Simeone, that I don't know about?
No, I don't. I do not. I don't know if maybe Justin loves him. I don't know.
I don't even know if he's in this range. I think he's going to be in next week's episode, the deeper starting pitchers. We did because I used to be part of a Twins message board back in the day, and we used to call him Meow Mix. We used to call them Meow Mix because he would throw like cat litter. Like we'd say that's like his stuff is like home the cat litter, so we called him Meow Mix.
I can't wait till I go to many O's games and just watch him serve up home runs.
I don't know. Some people are in on it. I think Justin might be in on him. Maybe. I don't know if that's true or not. All right, Marty Party, who is one of the players you like in this range?
Let me bring that up here. Oh yeah, so this is the first time I'm finally in on him. Andrew Heaney. I can't believe it. Today, this
Oh,
is
playing with fire there, Marty.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the end. But no, ADP 219. He's the 59th pitcher off the board. And because of injury concern, for obvious reason, replacement level based on league size is going to be the most important thing. And so what that means is that 10, 12 team leagues, I love him. I don't mind taking that, taking the leap there. 15 team fab leagues, yes. But I have him as my 5th pitcher in TGFBI, and that's where I feel comfortable. Having 3-4 studs in front of him, and so there's that upside at the back end. Draft and hold, and I'm not there yet, but 10 or 12 team leagues, 15 team leagues with Fab, yeah. Bat projections has him for 140 innings with 169 strikeouts, 3.91 ERA, and a 1.16 WHIP. So projected for more strikeouts than Fried and Lucas Giolito. He's projected to have a better ERA than Jesus Luzardo, Lance Lynn, and Pablo Lopez. I like the team context. He started throwing his slider now 32.4% of the time, and batters only have an XBA of 168 against it. The year before, he threw it less than 1% of the time. So he found something with the slider that I really like. His stuff's always been good. His commands plus, his all the metrics look good, just the injury concern. So as long as you build your team properly with an SP 1 through 4, that's pretty solid. I don't mind the upside there with Heaney as your 5th pitcher.
It's such a caveat for liking him.
Well, I mean, that's where the range
Context.
You're getting him at.
Fantasy baseball it's very important to have context.
I will say Andrew Heaney last year, there's a lot of things that you can like in his profile. All the ERA estimators still pretty much, even it's a little bit higher than his actual ERA for a couple of them. XERA, FIP are all a little bit higher. XFIP a little lower, actually. All the stuff very repeatable. Has had horrible ground ball rates, but also had a horrible ground ball rate last year. Still thrived. Home run per 9. Still not great, 1.73, but still managed to have that 3.10 ERA. And the strikeouts took a huge leap last year, going up to over 13. Marty, you're expecting, I'm assuming, some type of regression from him. But what type of regression do you think you can expect? Are we talking about like a mid to high 3s ERA? Is that in your expectation? Or do you think he can still hover around that like low 3, 13K per 9 that we saw last year with the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think the K rate's going to stay somewhere around there. I don't know if it's going to be 35.2, maybe more so like around 33, 34. Now the ERA, I think he's like a 3.5, 3.6. I don't think he's going to be low ERA. No.
All right. Well, we'll see what year away from the Dodgers if he turns.
And
back
last thing
into
I'll say, I like when Doc, when he hears a good argument, he still has to poke a hole in it. He has to go around it like that. Too many caveats. Like that's what a good argument is. He heard a good argument. It made him mad.
It's a good point, but it's just like, well, here's my thing. Andrew, I like him as an SP5, but what if you just go hitter heavy and he's your SP3? Do you not like him then?
Correct. You made a mistake. He's injury prone. That's why you got to build that into it.
That's for sure.
All right, LC, I'm going to go to you next because Cheesecake seems to like a rookie here in Grayson Rodriguez. I'm curious. Obviously, Grayson Rodriguez, the upside is very high, but there obviously is a little bit of a risk taking a rookie at this point in the draft. He's not exactly a bargain. I would say he's definitely not drafted at his ceiling, but he's also not being drafted at his floor either. Have you taken a lot of Grayson Rodriguez, and what are your expectations for him?
I have one share of Grayson Rodriguez, and I got him a little bit later than where he's going right now. I was fully expecting to have him be my fade in this range because I have concerns about the volume, how many innings they're going to actually let him pitch. But as I dug into it a little bit more, my concerns came down to health. Because if he pitches and he has 28, 29 starts and gets 130, 140 innings, I mean, this is the guy who could be this year's Spencer Strider. This is the guy, you look at what Grayson did in 2022. His minor league strikeout rate is better than Strider. He's got that pedigree of being a great pitcher. And then you look at all the pitchers who were top 30, top 40 pitchers overall in the season and didn't get a ton of innings. Guys like Tony Gonsolin, Max Scherzer, Christian Javier, Brandon Woodruff, Kershaw, Springs, Rassmussen, Ross Stripling, these guys who had good ratios, and the ones who got good K per nine, like I expect from Grayson, were ranked very high. So for me, I think that he's going to be good. My concern is, how does he hold up to the workload for the season? But I think that it's it's kind of baked into the price that he's not going, like, if you like Spencer Strider's going 170, 160 picks in front of him. So the guy who I think, if he gets those 140 innings like we expect from Strider, might get you 165, 175 strikeouts, might end up with 9 or 10 wins and good ERA and WHIP, because he has better control than Strider showed at a younger age. He has the same strikeout potential that Strider showed. So I think for me, I'm not going to take him everywhere, but I want some exposure to Grayson Rodriguez in this season, because I think this is the guy who could have that massive upside.
That's fair. He also has Adley Rutschman, his catcher, someone that he worked with throughout his time at the minor leagues, and they've called games together. So he's very comfortable with him, and that could help him as he's trying to make a statement in Baltimore this season. Going back to Heaney, 180 innings will be something achieved for Dustin, or I guess this is not Heaney related. Dustin May and Nick Lodolo. I wouldn't expect 180 innings from Dustin May.
Definitely not Dustin May.
Yeah, upcoming
No
Tommy
way.
John. Nick Lodolo, though, my heartthrob Nick Lodolo, I do think he could get there. Heaney, though, from Murph, he could be the Martin Perez, or he could, have a good season like Martin Perez did. That's for sure. Come out of nowhere. Guy Mike Carter checking. What's up, Mike? The Grayson Rodriguez upside call is definitely, you got to take a chance on drafting him in a couple places just for that to play out. I think it'd be really hard to replicate Strider's insane strikeout rate last year. He set a major league record for the fewest amount of innings to reach 200 strikeouts, but definitely even just getting 80% of that, 75% of that type of strikeout upside that Strider showed last year definitely could be worth the pick there.
Yeah. I'm certainly not saying that he's going to do 13 and a half strikeouts per nine like Strider did, but
I think he had like a 38% K rate. Is insane.
It's crazy. Yeah. Which is better than he did at AA, which is better than his AA numbers. Strider. Yeah. It's insane.
Doc, Jordan. Oh, go ahead. Listen, man.
I was just going to say quickly, I like Grayson because he's everything you want in a rookie pitcher in terms for fantasy. So what I mean by that is, whenever I'm looking at rookie pitchers, the one thing I want from them when they're coming into the majors is command. And he has very, very good command. He has consistent low walk rates. And then you also want a good fastball, which he has a very good fastball as well. So I think he has the makeup to, when he does struggle, he still won't get I don't think he's going to be getting blown up. I don't think it's, his ERA is going to skyrocket, just because I think he has good command of what he's doing and good control of what he wants to do. Whereas sometimes these rookie pitchers who don't have great command, they start getting too wild because they're too pumped up, and it could just get out of hand for them. So I think his floor is very high, and he reminds me of George Kirby. That's why I loved Kirby last year, because, again, another pitcher with excellent command. And I just think they have a much easier time adjusting to major league hitting as opposed to pitchers who kind of struggle with that.
All right. That's Grayson Rodriguez. Thinking about upside, Rodriguez is of it. The Doc, Jordan Montgomery, I think he's more of a floor player at this point. I know we saw flashes of him with the Cardinals last year, but he doesn't possess, I think, that game-breaking ability for your fantasy team, but you seem to like him here.
He doesn't, but I think when you're drafting, it's important to take guys that have high upside and maybe are a little bit risky and mix them in with players that have a solid floor, and that's what you're going to get with Jordan Montgomery. A good workload through 178 innings last year, went at least 5 innings in 27 out of his 32 outings. So he's given you opportunities to get wins, which he actually hasn't had a lot of in his career, hasn't hit double digits in wins yet. I do think, barring any injury, that he gets it this year with the Cardinals. He has good command. He walked less than 2 per 9 last year, was in the 87th percentile for walk percentage. And I know he's not a high strikeout pitcher, and sometimes pitching to contact can be dangerous. But last season in New York, he allowed about a home run per 9. I think that's something that in Busch will play a little bit better. It was at 1.06 last season. And once again, I know that BABIP at 275 was pretty low last year. I think that will go up. But once again, I think that this is the best environment that he's been in that will give him wins. He gets to face a weaker division. I know they don't play the Brewers and the Pirates and the Reds as many times as they did before historically. But I think Jordan Montgomery is going to be just a solid low-end SP2, high-end SP3.
Low-end SP2. That's a I feel like his ceiling at this point, Doc.
Then and what's wrong with that? Somebody that you're getting in the 46 to 60 range that could be.
Does anybody think Jordan Montgomery has SP2 written on him this year?
He could be like the SP30, and he'd be an SP2 in a 15-team league.
I'd be surprised, but I don't not like him.
That's fine.
I could see him as an SP3.
If he gets some wins luck, wins luck would carry him to a high rating for sure.
He's got the defense behind him, which helps.
And
yeah. I mean, would Kyle Wright have been the pitcher he was last year if he didn't get 21 wins?
I mean, he still had a really good ERA. Strikeouts were up.
He had like a 3.16 ERA. But those
a good ERA.
Yeah, and Jordan Montgomery's last year was 3.48. So you're talking about 0.32 higher. That's not a huge difference.
Ray writes, Casey Mize, Tariq Skubal, Chris Paddock, and John Mean. When are they coming back? I think John Means is going to be coming back sometime towards the middle of the season. Tariq Skubal, I think he's
the first couple months.
Yeah.
And Casey
Mize is out the entire season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he might come out like the last month. He might pitch a little bit just to see, in like September. But yeah, he's not going to be anything.
Same with Chris Paddock. Don't bank on Chris Paddock for next year. If anything, maybe a few starts at the end of the season. The player I'll talk about really quick, Hunter Brown, somebody that we talked about on the show really early on, and now his helium's definitely been going up now with the Lance McCullers injury. You really saw his talent on display towards the end of the season. Pitched in 7 games total, 2 starts, only 2 earned runs allowed, 22 strikeouts in 20.1 innings. But I think people really saw once the playoffs started and what he was able to do for the Astros during their run to the World Series. 3.2 innings coming out of the bullpen for the Astros, only allowing 2 hits, 3 walks to 1 strikeout. The whip a little bit high at 136, but he's got a power curve. He's got a mid-90s fastball to boot, and he models his pitching after Justin Verlander. So that's kind of who his hero was. He tries to emulate him, and he has the mental makeup. He has the physical makeup of someone that can overpower hitters on the mound. He's going to have to limit his walks. That's something that he didn't actually struggle with too much at the major league level, but at the minor leagues had inconsistent ability to locate the plate as much as you would like. Also did benefit from a lot of luck. 90.9% left on base percentage last year with the Astros in his 20.1 innings. So definitely there's some room that he's going to regress, but I do think he is one of those guys before the Lance McCullers injury, you're able to capitalize him being the 6th guy in the rotation, and you just draft the talent over the role, and you were going to get a lot of good stuff from Hunter Brown. Now his price is going up a little bit, but he's still, I think, very much worth your draft pick here. Did I miss something with Dylan Cease?
Oh my God.
He got lit up.
11 earned runs.
Yeah.
What?
11 in 0.2 innings.
Oh, wow. So when he said that at first, did you guys see Dylan Cease? I thought maybe he was going to get vaccinated.
Okay. So let me ask you guys this. Does this outing knock Dylan Cease's ADP down?
I hope so, because then I'll draft him more.
Yeah. Doc, you're too much. I don't think I've ever seen a pitcher of his caliber give up 11 earned runs.
It's spring training. Who cares?
I mean, even if you're trying new stuff, like I would stop trying the new stuff after you give up like 6 or 7 earned runs. But yeah, I mean,
I'm surprised they let him go that long, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I have to look at I want to look at his Baseball Savant page after just the box score to see if I can see like swinging strikes and what he threw just in terms of like what he threw compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
Murph says Hunter Brown could be solid. I have him on a few teams. Helped me a lot last season, as well as cover players resting at the end of the season. Good point there. Yeah, Hunter Brown really came on and it was money last year. Let's go to the flip side. Let's talk about players we're fading in this range here. Going back to Simeone, who you got?
I'm going to go with Senga here, and I'm actually kind of feel like I'm the low person on him, but it's basically kind of what we were just talking about with Grayson Rodriguez, but the opposite. I know Senga had issues in terms of command overseas, so that's not really what you want. Plus, he relies on a splitter, which has been considered inconsistent at times, so that doesn't help either. He does throw for high velocity, which will help, but I just think he could struggle to adjust, and there's too many question marks when it comes to him. And I feel like a lot of these splitter guys that come from overseas tend to struggle and have issues as well. So yeah, I've been pretty much out on Senga so far this year.
You don't like the ghost forkball?
I mean, if he can control and command it all the time, sure, I'd love it.
What is his other second? I think he throws 96, right? If I'm not mistaken, right.
Yeah, he throws high 90s. Yeah, he's got the splitter slider. I think he's got a curveball too.
I mean, it'll be interesting because the Mets need him to step up. I feel like after the big dogs, the 1-2, there's quality arms, but I don't think there's a no doubt about it. This guy can step in as the 3 and you feel confident, right? Is there anybody at that for right now that you feel like can step in behind those guys that you're like, he's taking the mound, I feel good?
I mean, not really, but I think that's why they have such good depth with Peterson and McGill, because they just, they needed that. So I think, I think they have enough depth to support it. I actually am a big fan of Carrasco, but his velocity's been so down. I'm waiting for it to come back up at this point. Although I wouldn't be too worried with him because he's a veterans and they tend to know what to do, and they tend to take some velo off at the beginning anyway. But yeah, I mean, a little worried, but not too much, just because of everyone that they have there to back them up.
I think it's important. I know Rob DiPietro put the video out of when they were talking about Chris Bassett and his velocity being down.
Yeah.
And they said that was intentional, that he wants. So I think that's one also things to keep in mind when we're talking about velocity is guys might not be throwing as hard as they can because they're trying to kind of prolong it throughout the season. So that's just something to make sure we always note of there. Marty, I know you originally were going to put Senga as your fade here, and then you changed it to Brady Singer. Are you going to stick with Singer, or are you going back to Senga?
I'm gonna go with Singer, but yeah, it was close. But yeah, so Brady Singer, 189 ADP. He's the 54th pitcher off the board. Bad projections have him for 177 innings pitched, which I do like. But yeah, only 158 strikeouts with a 4.12 ERA and a higher on the WHIP, 1.31. So I don't like him obviously for wins. I don't think the Royals are there yet. No matter their team's a little bit better, but as far as wins overall, I don't love it. I mean, he's a command pitcher with basically an average strikeout rate of 24.2. His xERA was closer to 4 last year, and that would be, I think most people consider it last year like a breakout year for him. So I don't know. I just like the upside of Jeffrey Springs or Hunter Brown or Heaney in this spot. So no Singer for me.
So even with his improving changeup, you are out on Singer. Is one of those guys I've seen rising up draft boards recently.
I have one share of them from the FPAS, early fall draft that we did, and I think I have him as my 5th starting pitcher. So I guess I'm not completely out on him earlier, but yeah, as he keeps rising up, there's no upside there. We're expecting him pretty much at his ceiling to perform, and I'm not doing it.
Do any of you guys buy in the belief that just teams can be so bad at developing pitching that even when you hear guys are making strides, they pitch for a certain team that you're out on them? Again, the Royals have had really struggled to develop their high-end pitching. I mean, thinking Asa Lacy, obviously Brady Singer has been probably the best one they've had, and even he's not been great. They have a bunch of other young pitchers that they've had too. I just, at the top of my head, I blanked on, but that's what scares me about the Royals is I feel like this is just a continuing thing every year. We get excited about some of these players and they still disappoint us.
Yeah, like on the flip side of that, thinking about the Dodgers or the Tampa Bay Rays or Cleveland, how they've been able to develop pitching for the last decade, pretty much consistently. There are teams like the Detroit Tigers or the Royals, or the Twins that are on the outside of that haven't. I just attacked the AL Central, but they haven't been able to develop that. So I think there's a lot of truth to that, and that's always in the back of my mind a little bit. Not so much with Singer. I just think where he's going with his ADP, this is his ceiling.
I think the Royals too made an effort finally to get a new pitching coach and kind of change their pitcher development strategy this offseason, because they had been running out a person who, it turns out, and I didn't know this until this offseason, was considered probably the worst pitching coach in baseball, in Cal Eldred, and doing that old Pittsburgh Pirates low sinkers type of old school pitching approach. And so I think, we can consider it a new regime there in their pitching development and hopefully better results.
Yeah, fair enough. It'd be very interesting to see how that plays out. Elsie, let's go back to you. Tell us about your fade in this range.
I'm fading Patrick Sandoval. This is a big draft strategy thing for me. I don't really like whip killers, guys who walk a lot of players. Sandoval's a whip killer. His walk rate's really high, and unless he gets a lot of BABIP luck, his whip is going to be really high, 1.3 or higher. And I think that just is so hard to make up for when this is one of your top starters. He's, fourth or fifth starter at this point, and you're throwing him out there every week. It's hard to make up for that much of a whip killer.
It's interesting because I've heard people still say, hey, the changeup is still elite, but he just hadn't been able to keep people off the bases, and that's, I know, why you're fading him. Is there another gear there for him, or did we see the best of him already?
Whew. I mean, I know that there's talk. I mean, Mike probably knows better than I do whether there's more strikeout upside in Sandoval. But I know that there's some talk.
I kind of think it is who he is at this point. I think you're going to get pretty much the same of what you got last year. I mean, maybe a little worse in the ERA area, but yeah, I mean, he's got really good breaking pitches that should have more potential, but it just never seems to come to fruition. So, and like you said, will probably continue to have the horrendous whip. So that's just going to kill you.
Yeah, I'm with you guys there. Jasper checking in tonight. What's up, Jasper? Thanks for hanging and watching the show. Doc, really quick, give us your fade in this range.
Fading Pablo Lopez. And if you
even
did
out
a draft,
out of Miami.
If you did a draft where you could get people for the first month, he would be good. And he's a guy that starts out hot, but then really tails off. I don't think we'll see another 180 innings. I think that was pushing it. Projections have him between 156, 171, but he had a 0.39 ERA last year in April. Then it went up to 0.78 in May, 0.534 in June, and was 4+ the last 3 months. Didn't pitch the second half of 2021. Going back to 2020, the first half ERA 2.42 to a 4.37 second half. I also don't draft guys that can blow up for 9 earned runs on any given day, which I think Pablo Lopez is capable of. And I know he's playing in a new division going to the AL, but I'm not a fan of his skill set. So this is too rich for me.
Okay. My fade, I'll keep my stuff quick. Tony Gonsolin, is anybody in on him? I know he's definitely not like a super high draft price. He doesn't really go deep into games as often as I'd like. I feel like he kind of benefited from a little bit of better luck last season. Strikeouts are not amazing. It's under a K per 9 for him. I think he just outperformed what we can expect from him year after year. Does anybody think Tony Gonsolin is going to be worth it? Obviously 16-1 record last year, sparkling, but anybody in on Tony Gonsolin?
I don't have any shares of him, but I wouldn't turn it down. It seems like people get him a little bit earlier than I'm comfortable with, but I'm not completely out on him.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, then let's move on. Let's go to the next range here. Let's go to the 61 to 75 range. I like this range a little bit better than the first range we were just at here. Simeone, back to you. who is a player that you just have to get a lot of here? Someone you're looking for in every draft?
Oh, I'm gonna lean Alex Cobb here. I just think he had a ton of bad luck last year. I mean, all of the ERA indicators show that he really performed so much better. He's going to perform so much better. The really high BABIP, the low left on base percentage, and meanwhile the splitter was still there and still awesome and getting a ton of whiffs. He went on a really good tear, I think, the second half of the season. I think the only worry and what can still hold him back is that terrible Giants defense. It didn't get any better. It might have even it kind of looks even worse, actually. So that could hurt him because he's a high ground ball pitcher, plus, no shift, although I don't think they shift that much last year anyway. But yeah, so I just think in terms of like raw stuff, he has the skill set to, put up like a 3.3 to 3.4 ERA with a good whip if everything comes together. And I don't think you could find that kind of upside in a lot of pitchers around here, especially with his upside in strikeouts too, where I think you get like a 28% strikeout rate.
Now, let me ask you, he was one of the players that came and he hated the pitch clock. Said it doesn't feel like pitching and it seems like it's really flustering him. Does that concern you at all?
No, because I mean, I've seen several pitchers say that already. And I don't know. I wouldn't be like, I know Gosman is kind of having an issue too. I don't know. It's so hard to like quantify that kind of stuff where I just don't even bother because I feel like you got to really see a sample size of it before adjusting. 'Cause I don't even know how to properly adjust that. Like, so what is that going to mean? Gives up maybe an extra run every 3 starts or something because of it. Who knows? But so yeah, it doesn't really worry me too much.
That's the only thing I'm worried about in the sense of like, if he's one of those pitchers that's going to be really methodical and thinking about what he wants to pitch and needs the time to think about like what he wants to throw, and that makes it so he can't throw the pitch he wants all the time, or he's not getting as good a feel or whatever, there's so many factors in that scare me a little bit. Maybe not enough to completely not want to draft him, but if I already see someone coming out saying that definitely does scare me a little bit. But like you said, maybe it's, after he gets used to it, it's something in hindsight doesn't matter. So, or maybe it even knocks him some ADP down and you can get him at even better value. So I can definitely see Alex Cobb being somebody that could pay off in a big way. Doc, let's go to you next. Let's talk about the player in this range that you're scooping up.
You remember when I said last year I was quitting Jose Berrios and it favored me very well?
Yes.
Well, I picked the right year to not draft him, but now you're getting the best value ever. I don't think I ever remember seeing him in this 61 to 75 range. I'm trying to figure out where he's going exactly right now on NFBC ADP. Jose Berrios right now is the 85th pitcher with an ADP of 232. So look, I know the metrics were bad last year. 13th percentile in average exit velocity, 11th percentile hard hit percentage, 5th percentile in slug, 15th in barrel. He's still got 12 wins being on a good offense. And I think a big thing was his fastball and sinker got hit really hard, a 349 and a 317 batting average against, but he came out saying that he's working on some mechanical issues and that he's hoping that by not having his neck turned but facing the batter the entire time, he'll get a little bit better velocity. I just think that he's on a team where he's going to get a lot of wins as evidenced by last year, and somebody that is going to be really durable. He's gone 150 in the last 3 seasons. At this range, I think I'm willing to take the chance on him this year.
Now,
Completely agree.
Oh, Doc, let me ask you, because what's up? You agree?
Yeah, I just said I completely agree.
Or was that your guy too?
No, but it is one of my guys as well. Not for the show, but just in general. I have been like on 4 or 5 teams already.
Ooh, a MySpace top 8 guy.
Faux show.
Oh, maybe. Now, Doc, for Jose Berrios, with the park changing in Toronto, does that not scare you at all?
I think we're going to have to see how it is. Like, we can speculate how it's going to be during the regular season, but same thing, we're talking about pitch clock here.
Mhm.
And with the increased base pass, we don't know necessarily how it will affect until it's actually in play. What ball is MLB going to use this year? Like, I'm trying to not get into speculative reasoning until we actually see a sample size of games played.
Okay. I mean, he does have, it's not outrageously higher than major league average, but his fly ball rate is a little bit higher than major league average. And again, anytime the park is changing for the better for hitters and they already have a higher fly ball rate than, the average pitcher, that those two things kind of scare me a little bit. Obviously, he also is no stranger to giving up a ton of runs and home runs. So that is definitely something I'm looking at. I will have 0 Jose Berrios probably. Jasper says Gonsolin, Lauer, Gilbert, and Urquidy, I think, are guys he has on his dynasty team. They're pretty stacked. Uncle Ted wants to talk about Bobby Miller, but it will not be on this episode because he is a deeper sleeper. We'll get onto the episode 3 for starting pitchers. Marty, let's go to you. You're a player that you actually were going to choose.
I can't believe I'm doing this either, man. I feel like a new person. Like for years and years, I did not draft any of these pitchers, and now I think with how bad my pitching was last year, I'm switching it all up. So Nathan Eovaldi, ADP 242, 69th pitcher off the board. Little news on him. So yeah, he had the left side tightness in camp last week. He's going to be throwing a light bullpen session tomorrow, so I'm interested to see how that goes. Bat projection has him for 155 innings pitched. Fingers crossed on that one. 141 strikeouts, a 4.10 ERA, and a 1.19 WHIP. His stuff's great. He locates well. Everything still plays up, even at 33. Injury risk is the biggest thing, just like Heaney. So, again, you have to build in a solid and that's what I'm going to do with these later picks. My 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th SP. I'm going for upside. So I like where he's at. I think if you've drafted like a Chris Sale or like a Kershaw or, veterans that may be hurt, you stay away from him. But if you've gone pretty conservative, I love his upside at this. I mean, we've seen him do it before on the Rays. He's been hurt. I don't know. I like where I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'm all in.
I think the biggest thing with Eovaldi is that his fastball velocity basically died out the second half of last year because he was clearly hurt. And then, but in spring training, his velo was way up, and that was like huge. So for me, I'm with you on that, Marty.
Yeah, his last game out, he retired 6 hitters and 19 pitches, and he touched 98 2 or 3 times. I mean, he experienced, tightness after that, but
that's all right. As long as the velo's back, that's all that matters.
There you go. We have our first cage match because this is LC's fade in this range. It took a while, but we finally have a disagreement here. LC, you are fading. You are fading Nathan Eovaldi. Why?
I'm fading Eovaldi because of the velo drop last year, because of the tightness already. I think, 109 innings last year. I think that there's a possibility that Texas staff is going to all be, in slings half the season, and Eovaldi's right in there with it. I think the injury concerns are awful.
I think also Murph brings up a good point. It seems like Evo is a better first half pitcher than second half pitcher. Continuously kind of maybe tailed off in the second half. I don't know if it's.
I've never looked into that. Maybe
I want to look at his splits in a second. Ray adds, what about Alex Wood? It's his trump card. I think I've set sail on the Alex Wood train. But Ray, if he pays off, I'm going to say it's your guy this year. So I will point everybody to you. Nathan Eovaldi is definitely somebody that's tricky. But I think it's a high risk, high reward pick, like you guys talked about. You have Merrill Kelly as the player you want to talk about in this range, who had been complete balls before last year, for being honest. And now he was pretty decent last year. You think he can replicate that?
I do, and I want to throw in a free one for everybody. Noah Syndergaard's looked pretty good so far this spring,
you and everybody else loves him.
I can't quit him. I think there's a chance that he's going to do really well for the Dodgers, but I'm gonna. That's all I want to say about that because I already brought him up in a previous episode. Merrill Kelly, the thing you want with him, thing you're getting with him, the volume. He pitched 200 innings last season. Now, people who throw that type of volume, there's almost no chance. There's a very good chance they are worth their pick. If you looked at the top 50 pitchers in innings last year, 80% of them, almost 80%, 38 out of 50, were in the top 100 overall pitchers. So just getting the volume is so important to your placement and to your value for a team. I think he made strides under the new pitching coach last season, and just as the entire staff did. I think he's going to keep much of the gains, and if he continues to throw that volume, he throws almost 200 innings. There's almost no way he's not a top 100 pitcher and well worth that pick.
Doc, what's your rule? If they have a Pokemon in their name, don't draft them.
Yeah. That is kind of true, but Merrill Kelly kind of did it last year. I mean, David, your rule is no draft nobody that had thoracic outlet syndrome, and there.
He did.
They canceled each other out.
They did.
Double negative.
Double negative. It always does that. But yeah, Merrill Kelly, definitely interesting. Let me ask you guys really quick, yes or no, around the horn. Will you have any Merrill Kelly on your rosters this year, Simeone?
No, he's my least favorite in this group, I was going to say.
Oh, we have another cage match? Woo! Bring it on. Okay, go ahead, Simeone. Leads right into it.
Well, there's nothing, it's nothing like, I don't have anything too crazy to back it up. It honestly, just for me, like in this range, I mean, unless you went super risky early on, which isn't really smart. I mean, he's just insanely boring. Yeah, maybe he'll get you 200 innings, but like, one, I don't know what the chances of that happening again are. Two, even if he does, he's basically not getting you any strikeouts. And three, I just think there's no upside there, and that's the biggest point at this part of the draft. Like, you want to take someone who can potentially win your league with obviously somewhat decent floor, but Kelly just doesn't do that. Like, he's not going to do anything for you. I mean, again, unless you just have a super risky pitching staff at this point, or I guess I could see it maybe in like a 15-team like draft champions league, just because you always have someone, sure. But I mean, he's never pitched 200 innings in majors before. I don't know. I just think he's super boring. It's just not worth the pick.
Okay. I mean, there is the point that that Ted brings up, Brent Strom being there definitely can't hurt the situation.
The best. Yes.
Yeah.
He's very good.
But yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big believer in Kelly this year. My gut says he's going to be someone that behind your Gaining the Edge Patreon, that he's going to be someone that gets featured as a streamer this year at various points.
And by the way, Eovaldi was better in the second half in 2021.
He was. Okay. So Ted or Murph, that was fact checking Murph's call there. And there's a lot of great prospects as Ted bringing up. Dre Jameson, Brandon Fatt, a ton of great guys that we'll get to in our last starting pitcher preview. I'm going to tell you guys a story. I've got my book for mine. This will be my longest one. There was once a man named Sean who last year made you go Manaea, ya, but this year you're going to go Manaea, yeah, because he is going to be, that was painful.
Can you tell David's getting ready to be a dad?
Yeah. All right. But for real though, Sean Manaea is my favorite player in this range. He's going to be in my MySpace top 8 overall for all positions. He's going to be absolutely dynamite this year. Keep in mind, this was all before the velo bump that we saw in his first start. I wasn't able to look and see his velo for his second start where he gave up 4 runs. But at least in his first start, the velo was up to 96. So this is a guy that has 885 career innings. And over those 885 career innings, a 4.07 career ERA and 4.06 FIP, very much a league average pitcher. But one of the things he'd been throwing is basically his bread and butter was a low 90s sinker that he threw over 60% of the time. In 2022, that pitch had 2.4 fewer inches of drop than any other sinkers thrown in that same velocity and about an inch less horizontal run, and it killed him last year. 1.65 home run per 9, the second highest among all pitchers with at least 130 innings last year. 4.96 ERA, not good, but 4.53 FIP shows that there was some room for regression, as well as a 3.90 Sierra. Basically, Look at the fly ball rate, 13.1 career fly ball rate. Last year was 14.9. So I just think overall was a lot of bad luck for him. But what has me really excited for Sean Manaea this year is the seam shifted wake approach that Logan Webb adapted, and the Giants like to try to use with them some of their pitchers. The seam shift and wake is definitely over my head in terms of like all the parts about it, but basically what it is same axis, close to the same velocities, but and similar spin rates, but the movement is very different off the pitches. So it looks the same coming out, but the movement is very different. And one of the things that it maximizes in the seam shift and wake is the sinker and the sinker changeup combination that he throws. And that's, again, Logan Webb's top pitches, same type of thing. And Logan Webb was really able to ascend. So I think the Giants, from what I was reading, they're really interested to try that same approach with him. And the fact that the velocity is up only makes me even more encouraged. I think you're getting an absolute bargain with Sean Manaea. And I think he's going to be the latest Giants reclamation project, and the ADP is not reflecting that.
So I thought he was in the next group. Well, I had him in the next group, and I had him as my least favorite. I completely disagree.
I mean,
Cage match! Cage match!
Let's go. All right.
I knew you liked him, so I wrote down some notes. All right, so I don't know if you ever look at Eno Stuff Plus ranking, which basically takes everything, like all the makeup of a pitch in terms of movement, velocity, vertical approach angle, that kind of stuff. He had a Stuff Plus ranking worse than Zach Thompson last year. He throws for low velocity. I know you said it seemed to increase, but I still don't think it's going to be high enough to really make an impact, especially that home run rate last season was horrendous. I really think he just has bad mechanics. I mean, he likes to throw across his body too much, and he's been doing that his entire career. And it has always led to him being very inconsistent. Like, he always goes on these like little runs where he pitches well, but then because of his bad mechanics, he gets a little more wild. And because he doesn't throw fast and he relies on deception, it just doesn't end up really working out for him. And not only that, he has a massive splits issue against left-handed hitters. He is like one of the worst xFIPs in the league. So I just think you're looking at a pitcher who's been doing this. He's basically just mediocre. In his 391 innings, he has a 4.42 ERA with an xFIP and Sierra of a high 3.8 ERA pitcher, which to me settles him in around a 4 ERA guy. So I just think, I mean, I'd much rather have Merrill Kelly than him, honestly.
Whoa! Wait a second. Do you want to make a bet on the pod? Who finishes higher next year?
That's fine.
All right.
Based on what?
Razzball player rater?
That's fine. Minimum what? 120? 120
Yeah,
innings?
okay. Minimum 120 innings. Loser pays for the winner's round of golf.
Works for me.
Okay. The one thing I'll say with Manaea, I mean, I talked about the home run to fly ball rate way higher than his career average last year. If he's touching 96 miles per hour, does that change your feeling about him at all? If his velocity's up, I mean, he went to drive line, so there is a potential that actually sticks.
I mean, yeah, for sure, there's potential, but you got to see him do it for an entire season. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to throw 96 for 30 starts. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think I would really have to see it and see the different movement on stuff like that. But I mean, I can only go off of what we actually know, honestly. And I just don't see a good pitcher. Never have. I never understood the hype around him. So many people love him. I don't know why.
Again, you're like, the deception part is big. He's in the 98th percentile extension, so the ball comes on you quick, even if he is throwing it at like 90 to 92. Even if that's why I'm like wondering, even if we get it, if it goes down to like 93, 94, that's still higher than what he was throwing before last year. So I think last year was such an aberration for him. And he had still been a league average pitcher before last year. So I
don't think he's a 5 ERA guy. I think he's a 4 ERA guy, but that's just still not great. He's just not. I'd much rather other pitchers around him.
Oh man, that's gonna be interesting. Giant staff is sneaky. Ross Stripling and Manaea for Rodon. He Said very fair critique, Michael. I'm hoping for the best as a Giants fan. Don't worry, Gino. Manaea is going to bring you to the promised land.
David,
I promise.
Art isn't gonna say something, but if you look in the private chat, we made a Sean Manaea poem.
Did you really?
Yes.
There was once a man named Manaea whose ERA couldn't be higher. He went to Francisco, listened to disco, and now the Giants took a flyer.
And David was a buyer.
Oh my God, that was hilarious. Oh man, you just stay for the episode just for the poem. Fantastic. I lost where we were even at. I think we were kind of mixing fades and favorites here. So I think since we're kind of like all over the place here, Mike, if I'm sure there's like one or two other pitchers you had written down for either fades or favorites here. If you want to go over the other pitchers you have, and then we'll just kind of go around the table here.
Are we in the next group now? Where are we now?
I think because we kind of hopped around because there were so many cage matches after it was so dry in the beginning.
Well, I went back to back least favorites, and I didn't do any backups for least favorites. So I could talk about a favorite for the next.
Yeah, talk about it for the next range.
I mean, the next grouping, I've been a big fan of Kyle Bradish. In August and September, he had a 3.29 ERA with a low home run rate and a 1.18 WHIP. Basically what he did was he dropped his four seam usage and he started to rely on his breaking balls more, both of which I think are sneaky good. And I think the Orioles really started to realize this towards the end of last season too. And that's why he was just pitching much better. His velo has been up in spring, which is nice as well. And I know I just talked about Stuff Plus. His Stuff Plus last year, although fewer innings, ranked higher than Tristan McKenzie, Justin Verlander, Luis Castillo, and Shane Bieber.
It's interesting. First of all, is it Bradish or Bradish?
Or Bradish? I don't know.
I heard Bradish and I was like, wait a second.
I've heard people say both, so I just I don't know. Sometimes I go back and forth.
So what do you think his ceiling is this year? Like a top 40 pitcher, or do you see it even higher than that?
It's tough to tell because I would want to see if the strikeouts really come forward or not. I don't know. I would say I don't know if I would go as far as to say top 30 yet. I'd have to see. Top 40, sure.
Who do you think's better, him or Tristan McKenzie?
McKenzie?
Okay. I was thinking
by far.
Okay. When you said his Stuff Plus, I was like, maybe he'll start swaying the other way. We could have another round of golf on the line here.
No, not that. Stuff Plus doesn't mean everything, but it's just a good way to see some potential and stuff like that.
There's another poem that's being worked on here in the private chat. I'll wait till it's finished. So obviously they're not paying attention to our conversation here, Michael. We're just on an island by ourselves.
That's fine.
Marty, let's go to you. Any other players you want to bring up either for positive or negative here?
Yeah, me and Doc are going to tag team Jack Flaherty real quick. Get this out of the way.
This is a PG rated show.
Yeah. Way. So Mr. Flaherty, he's an obvious health risk. Even when he does pitch, he doesn't pitch good. He hasn't had an xERA lower than 4.89 since 2019. So his last 154 innings have basically been awful. And he's on the outside looking in as far as the front office of the Cardinals. They don't see eye to eye on many different things. I'll see how he does this year. I might be in, for next year, but I don't see a reason for taking him ADP 224, 63rd pitcher off the board. Doc, what do you got?
David, it is also an adult show because of Art, and we have to put the labels on that.
That's
for each show.
Very true.
The durability, 40, 78, 36 innings. He's been throwing the fastball more and more, close to 50% last season, and it tops out at about 93, which is the 39th percentile fastball velocity. And he already has a calf issue this spring. He's not even healthy going into the season. All right.
Fair enough. Then I think we're all on the last range of players here. And
we did finish our poem, by the way.
Did you? Oh, I'm scared to read it. All right. For our audience, SPStreamer likes Bradish, even though he has been baddish. He got hit into the ground into a radish. What?
There's not many things that rhyme with Bradish, okay?
There's really not.
But he got hit into the ground and turned or Bradish. I like the Manaea poem. You guys are losing steam here. Oh my God. Save for the poems. LC, let's have you finish up in this for the final range here. Because you took the Carrasco, which Simeone said he liked earlier, but then was scared about the velo. He is a like for you in this final range.
Yeah. Well, I had not heard that his velo was down this spring, but like Mike said, he's an older veteran pitcher. I don't think that he's going to have any problem working his way into season shape. I think that you could see him. He still strikes out at least 9 per 9, at least 1 per inning. His ERA indicators were much better than he ended up last season. And I think that he had a little bit of bad luck last season, so his whip could come back down below into the 1.2s. Pitching for that great, excellent Mets team, he was able to get 15 wins last season. And I think, he's just going to be out there every fifth day again, getting good strikeout numbers and pitching for a good team, possibly getting you a lot of wins. I really like him this season. And so I've been targeting him a lot in this range. And do you want me to say who I'm fading as well? Yeah. I'm fading Ranger Suarez, someone who I was way in on last season, but all of the issues that people warned me might come up last season actually did come up last season. His whip went way up. His strikeouts dropped. His walks went up. And so I just don't trust him, even though his ERA was pretty good. It came with a pretty poor whip. And his home run suppression went away. So I don't trust Ranger Suarez as like in this range as much as a lot of the other guys going there. So I've been fading him as well.
After he really came on towards the end of a couple seasons ago, he has kind of looked like at best a league average pitcher. So I don't think anybody's jumping for joy to get Ranger Suarez. And Art faded Ranger because he is in great danger. His ERA and whip is high, which gives Art great anger. There once when ace Carlos Carrasco, his health has been a fiasco. I think y'all need to quit while you're ahead. Marty, you want to give your last two guys here?
Absolutely. Roansy Contreras. So I've pretty much if I'm in a draft, I've drafted him this year. ADP 289, 85th pitcher off the board. The triple players ball. I got him in the 19th round. It's my 6th SP. I like where he's at. His 2020 stats, 3.79 ERA with 86 strikeouts over 95 innings. He was optioned 3 times last year. And so he bounced back and forth from being a starter, a reliever, in the minors, in the majors. People look to his average velocity of at the beginning of the season, it was 97.1 when he was coming out of the bullpen, and everyone kind of freaked out in September when it was around 94.5. Yeah, that's a big drop off, but I mean, look at Michael Kopech, same thing. You take someone from the bullpen, you throw him in as a starter, having him go 4, 5, 6 innings. That's what's going to happen. So he's had this whole year off to focus on. He's going to be a starter. He's worked on his changeup. He's worked on his curveball to balance out he has a good four seam and slider. So he has a solidified role. The front office says they do not have a plan to cap his innings. So they're going to let him pitch as much as possible. I'm excited to see it.
That's no cap?
No cap.
No cap. Okay. Eric got it.
I got it.
Did we use that right? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
That's what the cool kids say. No cap.
David, you should have taken off your cap and said no cap.
No cap. No, I like Roansy Contreras. I had someone ask me the other day who thinks have more upside this season, Roansy Contreras or Mitch Keller. I feel like Roansy Contreras is the answer for that one, unless there's some real Mitch Keller believers again. No? Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're on the same. Mike's thinking about it.
I think he's got some potential, but I'm not like all in on him saying everyone needs to draft him right now. I have like one share, maybe I have, but
it's like the snake and Adam and Eve that tell them to bite the forbidden fruit. Isn't that how the story goes? You're just like taking more and more bites of the forbidden fruit. You've been down this road before.
I mean, Ed did a sweeper. Who knows?
Mitch Keller burns the fantasy baseball community. That's what he does usually yearly here. Eric, I think you're the last one. Give us your favorite and fade here.
I'll do my fade real quick then. Fade's Michael Kopech.
Oh, that's right.
I'm just not. He's coming off knee surgery. The White Sox are already easing him in. As a starter, I don't see him going over 125 innings and keeping his velocity. It's just not – he's built for the bullpen. By July, I bet his velocity's down, and the White Sox are looking for ways to probably, pace it out because they should be contending this year. So I don't expect him to be, going over 120, 130 innings. They're going to save him for the playoff run.
That's my fade also, Kopech. I mean, Marty pretty much touched on it. Was a little bit short of 120 innings last year and had a 9.7 K- walk percentage. I think especially if they don't have Liam Hendricks and Reynaldo Lopez or Kendall Graveman move to the closer role, you see him be a long reliever, and that's when he was most effective. He had a 36.1 K percentage and 13 holds as a relief pitcher. So I'm with Marty on that. He's not even the closer, and in a saves and holds league, valuable, but other than that, probably not. And then my favorite is Hayden Wesneski. Go ahead and try and make a poem out of that last name because you probably can't. I think he could sneak in as the 5th starter, and that's when his ADP will go up a little bit. But he threw 142 innings across 3 levels last year. He's been pretty good at keeping the ball in the park, especially at Wrigley. Good at limiting walks at 2.18 ERA last year, and only 6 starts for the Cubs, but went at least 5 innings in 5 out of those 6. And is David trying to make a poem about it?
That kind of works.
I'm interested to see how this ends.
I have to think about it. There once was a man named Hayden Wesneski. His parents said he was very pesky.
That's all we got.
Tune in next week.
Yeah. Finish the poem next week. We're already over an hour. Simeon's got other stuff to do. I don't want to hold him anymore. So, Mike, thanks so much for hopping on the show and doing our SP preview part 2 with us. Please plug the Patreon. Please plug all that you're doing, Twitter handle, all the stuff.
Yeah, you follow me on Twitter at SPStreamer, and we have the GTE Patreon, which, again, you can find the link on my Twitter. I know there's like an actual URL for it, but I never remember it. So, yeah.
Just check a link in the Twitter bio, right? At the
That's
top.
right. There you go.
Are you going to be doing more of your little videos with the coffee, taking a
Oh,
sip? Are those coming? Or
Yeah, I mean, I could.
those better not go behind a paywall. If you do, you're a
no, they would never. They would never. They would never.
It's smart to put them behind a paywall.
No, I know, but
that's worth paying for by itself.
No, that would never be behind a paywall. That's a Twitter
People
thing.
need to know, is there coffee actually in that mug?
There is always coffee in there, yes.
Yeah,
That was the myth.
Coffee
that I was
once
trying
in
to
a
figure
blue
out.
moon, I'll have just like water in there for some reason, but yeah.
That was a myth that we tried to debunk early on, that I didn't actually
know.
see him swallow and he would just do this and there was nothing there.
I would
was
take small sips because 9% of the time when I'm doing it, it's like when I just made the coffee, so it's like piping hot. So I can't take like a gulp of it.
I'd love to see the outtakes of him like choking to death.
There was
a Logan Gilbert X-Zip.
There's a lot of fun. I think we made a GIF of you when you were doing the dance.
Yes.
And then they need to do like a GIF of you, like for if like somebody, one of the pictures you advertise, one of your streamers does well, it's just like a GIF of you doing this, just like a Kermit.
That would
breaking
be
the
pretty
teeth.
funny.
You know what came to my mind when you guys were debating Manaea? That meme you guys made of David's head on Bowser. I forgot.
Yeah.
That'll be Manaea versus Kelly this year. Well, we're gonna have some fun this year. It's gonna be good. Thank God.
That'll be interesting for sure.
But yeah, make sure you're following Michael at SPStreamer. Make sure you guys are joining the Gain the Edge Patreon. Link is in his bio at SPStreamer on Twitter. We'll also put that in the podcast and YouTube description for you guys to check out there if you're interested. But I think that's it for us. Is there anything to promote? Underdog Fantasy, use code TRIPLE, $100 match on your first deposit. Triple Players Ball filled all 4 leagues that we're doing this year. If you guys like the show, make sure you guys like it. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 3,000 YouTube subs by the end of this month. We're like 85 away. So if you guys like it, please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a video. Podcast, appreciate you guys. We're hitting a record number of downloads. So really appreciate all of that. And don't worry, all season we'll be doing streamers and Marty's. We're going to do like new segments this year, like Marty's party, who gets in for his lineup for the weekend and who doesn't make his lineup for the weekend. We've got fun stuff cooking for this year. So make sure you guys check that.
David says Michael Simeone has better things to do and just goes on and rambles.
Yeah, I know. I'm
That's fine.
not good for me here.
No.
But for Mike, for Marty, for LC, for Doc, I'm DMendy. We're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. Catch you guys next week.